What do ghost stories, summer camps, and international travel all have in common? In this house, the answer is ChatGPT. Welcome to the AI Empowered Mom podcast. AI Empowered Mom is on a mission to reduce the mental load of parenthood through AI assistance, helping moms and caregivers delegate the training and reclaim their time and energy. I'm Sarah Dooley. I'm the founder of AI Empowered Mom and, of course, the host of the AI Empowered Mom podcast. And I am joined by my friend, Leslie Llewellyn, Senior Integrated Marketing and Advertising Consultant with over 20 years of experience building global brands. Leslie got her start in the ad agency world, building brands like Almay Cosmetics, Anheuser-Busch, Bayer, Capital One, United Healthcare, and Universal Studios Orlando. She now serves as a fractional head of marketing for multiple clients and lives in Austin, Texas with her husband and daughters. Leslie is not only a fantastic marketing mind and leader, she's also a wonderful mom who uses AI in such creative and fun ways to enhance her family's life. She's my friend, and the more I hear about how she uses AI in her home and work life, the more I knew I had to have her as a guest on the podcast. So welcome, Leslie. It is such a thrill to be here with you.
Thanks so much for having me.
I touched a little bit about your background in the intro, but could you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about yourself and your family life?
So my husband and I met in New York, moved there from Canada in my late 20s and lived there for about 8 years. And yeah, met my husband there. We had our first little one in Brooklyn and just decided that we would love to make our way out of the city and have a little bit more space. So we ended up in Austin here, which was a great fit. We've been here for about 7 years and loving every minute of it. We get outside as much as we can. And yeah, what else? I have been consulting now for about 8 years. I really started when my first little one was born. It allows me to continue to work with different brands, which was one of the reasons why I love the advertising industry, but it also gives me some flexibility.
Wonderful. Well, how does AI show up in your work and in your home life?
Gosh, well, in work, I do find that I end up using ChatGPT the most. Certainly, I'm using Canva as well and the AI features on Canva. And Grammarly has been a part of my working day for a long time. But in terms of in life, gosh, I feel like I've just been picking up little hacks along the way from others, whether it is, moms planning recipes out to what it is that they're going to do on the weekend, that kind of thing. So I've really just been picking it up along the way for anything and everything. This year, I used it to help me do my summer camp planning for my girls, some of our travel planning. And yeah, so I'm finding it very helpful for all of those things.
Can you unpack that for us a little bit? Get it? That's a pun. Unpack it and share how you used it for summer camp planning. That is such a drain for so many
Oh,
moms.
yeah. I think one of the things that's worth mentioning for folks who don't use Chat GPT all that much is it's like talking to a person, and that's why it's called chat. You can just chat with it, and that's the nice part about it. So it's almost like I'm having a conversation with someone where I'll say, I need to plan summer camps for my girls. They are ages 7 and 8, and they are interested in music and art, and also I want them to get outdoors. Keeping in mind that we're in Texas and it's pretty hot, I'd like a mix of indoor and outdoor. I also love stimulating them in all different types of ways, so something out of the box would be great. And so I'll type all these things out and say, can you recommend a summer camp program that might work for my girls in Austin, Texas? The other thing that I did was because we will be in Canada for a good portion of the summer as well, I did a similar thing there where I said, here are the parameters of our summer plans, and here's who my girls are and what their interests are. Can you recommend a schedule for us? And it gave me a bunch of really good recommendations.
I talk to moms all the time about using AI. And first of all, I love how you just roll those prompts like right off the dome there. But what would you say to moms who are nervous about putting information about their families or their kids into a tool like ChatGPT? Like you shared your children's ages. It doesn't sound like you share their names, but their ages and their interests. Did you give any thought about privacy, or how did you decide that you felt comfortable sharing that kind of information in an AI tool like ChatGPT?
I didn't overthink it, honestly. I think when ChatGPT in particular first came out, I went down the rabbit hole a little bit about this company because if there's anything I've learned from my industry as well, it's that, your data is really important to keep private and it hasn't always been respected in the way that it should. I started to do a bit of research on the company in general. So I felt comfortable, but I can understand why maybe everyone isn't. I don't put my kids' names in there.
So you shared with me that you had a big aha moment when you realized that your skill in writing creative creative briefs made you a stronger AI prompter. Can you share a little bit about that for us, especially for those of us who maybe have never written a creative brief?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I really found that the more information I was giving to chat and the more context, the better the results were. And it sort of worked in the same way as when we were writing creative briefs at the ad agency. So, in order for a creative team to create a campaign idea, they need as much information about the client and the brand and the target audience as they could possibly get. So, to create these results, we had to do some research and figure out, what are the best variables and information and insights that we can provide for the team to be able to get great quality work. And it's exactly the same for chat. So in the agency world, you would say, here's the brand profile. So in the chat world and in real life, you can just say, who are you? Who is speaking? So I'm the mom of two girls who are 7 and 8, that kind of thing. The target audience is something else that we would have to identify in a creative brief. And so this might be something like, I'm organizing a lunch for teachers at the school. So who are you organizing it for? Well, for the teachers at the school. So that's your target audience in that scenario. What are we trying to achieve from this whole thing? What do we want the outcome to be? And so, there's sometimes where that's applicable and sometimes where it isn't, but the overall outcome is actually even helpful for chat to know so that it can give you certain recommendations that it may not otherwise. What is the primary message we're trying to communicate? If I'm writing a campaign for an outdoor poster and I've got 3 seconds of people's attention, what is that one message I want them to walk away with? That's actually helpful in the real world as well. So, what is the message that you want to give the teacher for that luncheon? Well, you want them to know that they are appreciated and that their kids in their class love them. What are the key benefits or the value propositions or the fancy words that we use in marketing? And so why is it that a product is important to the target audience that you're speaking to? It's sort of the same thing here. So like, why should the teachers care? Why should the parents care if you're organizing a bunch of parents to get together? So all of that information is really helpful.
Well, that is so beautifully said. And it makes me think of like, what's the opposite of that old expression, garbage in, garbage out? This is like treasure in, treasure out or something.
Right. Yeah, no, that's right. Uh-huh.
All that
Yeah, the more
beautiful
you put into
context.
it, the better the results are going to be. So yeah.
That's right. And I've also heard you say that you might treat AI like your executive assistant. What does that look like for you in practice, especially thinking as a mom and a marketer?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, that was another sort of frame of mind, I guess, when I started first using it was, okay, so because it is a chat prompter, I was thinking to myself, well, if I had an executive assistant, you want to give them as much information as possible to get the best result. And so it's the same kind of thing here where, you're really giving them as much context to the scenario as possible in order to get the best results. And that's how chat's going to work for you as well. So if you need to plan something out, whether it is, okay, I need to know what to do. I'm trying to plan a weekend out with my family. Okay, so you could say, well, it's Mother's Day this weekend as a good example. I'd like to plan a Mother's Day outing with my 2 daughters and my wife or my husband. And we would like to stay within 30 miles of Austin, but we'd like something outdoors and something where the girls can run around. We love barbecue, but we also love, I don't know, Asian food maybe. Can you give me some recommendations on a way that we can spend our morning and our afternoon to enjoy Mother's Day together?
I hope AI empowered dad is listening to this because I love your plan for Mother's Day weekend coming up. Well, Leslie, one of the things that strikes me about you in our interactions is how you're going through life and finding ways to make it fun. When we first met, I remember talking about you and some other parents going to stand in line for a camp and that you were talking about who's bringing the breakfast, who's bringing the coffee. And to me, it's like, oh my God, the drudgery of getting up early to go stand in line to sign up for a camp on a cold morning. But you have a way of just making things like that a fun moment. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about creativity and connection and how AI can help parents like not just get things done, not just stand in line to sign up for the camp, but actually have more fun in their lives. Can you share a little bit about how you use AI to bring joy or fun into your family's life?
Yes. This was actually a somewhat recent discovery and it was really cool. So my husband has been using it during dinner every once in a while. We try not to have screens at dinner, but sometimes the girls will have questions about maybe a project that they're working on at school. And so he'll bring chat over to say, my daughter is working on a project about the Romans. Can you tell us a little bit about Roman history? And chat Well, he's got the voice prompt on and it will say, "Oh, I'm so glad to help you with your daughter's project about the Romans. Here's some history about it." And so we'll sit at dinner and it will speak to us and then we'll continue to ask questions and so on. So that's been really helpful to sort of add a little bit of fun dynamic to our dinner conversation. And also they can learn something at the same time. So that's something we've been doing. But that also prompted me to think about an idea. And actually, I should really be giving the credit to my eldest, my 8-year-old. She had a play date, and I go into her bedroom and I see that she's on a screen. And I said, "Sweetie, we're not doing screens right now." And she said, "But mommy, we're writing stories." And so she and her friend were prompting ChatGPT to tell them ghost stories because they've got this new thing about being really excited about being scared listening to ghost stories. So she said, "Can you tell me a ghost story about a woman in a lake near the town of Neath, which is the Welsh town that her dad is from?" And, she would give some parameters around what the woman is wearing and this kind of thing. And so ChatGPT would tell a story and completely make up on the spot a really great ghost story. And then it would say at the end, "Do you want it to be a little scarier or do you want it to be in a different setting?" She would say, "Yes, I'd like you to make it a little bit scarier. And this time I would like you to make the setting in Canada, where my mom's from." And so the chat would say, "Well, here's another iteration of that story in the Canadian setting." And so it would bring in like grizzly bears and like things that were specific to Canada. So it's a really fun way for them to learn and also be creative. During COVID, my mom, their grandma, used to read to them via Zoom to go to sleep. And so she would screen share and, show books and obviously read to the girls. And so one of the things that we tried recently was grandma had ChatGPT open and she was prompting chat to tell a story. And then the girls would say, "Oh, let's, make this iteration of the story." And so they would prompt it to do something else. So they were doing a choose your own adventure, if you will, using chat, and both grandma and granddaughters could contribute. So it was really cool.
My gosh, I love it. So not only are you an AI empowered mom, there's an AI empowered grandma and AI empowered kids in your family too. That's so
That's
wonderful.
true. Yes.
What advice do you have for moms who maybe haven't dipped their toe in yet or tried some of these great use cases that you mentioned? If folks are feeling overwhelmed by AI or aren't sure where to start, what's your advice for them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the thing to keep in mind more than anything is, as I mentioned before, is just you can just speak to it like it's a person, honestly. That's the thing that's really cool about it. So if you're not really sure what to do, think about it as if you're having a coffee with a girlfriend and you're trying to get advice from her. And you say, "I'm trying to plan out my trip to the UK this summer. What do you think I should include in my trip plans? Here's where we're starting. We're starting in London. We're going to drive down to Cardiff. I would like the girls to experience something new and different along the way. We might want to stop for 2 nights. Can you recommend some places to stop along the way from between London and Cardiff?" And, it'll plan it out like that. So you don't have to almost think too hard about it. It's like, what sort of questions would you ask your girlfriend at coffee? And that's what you can put in, and you can get some really great results just that way.
Okay, let's just try it. Let's just do a live demo together. I've got ChatGPT opened on my computer. Give me that creative brief one more time, and I'm going to type it in and we'll see what the results came out.
Well, and this is a real scenario. So we do take trips to the UK fairly often to see my husband's family in Wales. We fly to London. And when we go down into South Wales, we try to stop along the way to see some of his family, but also just to have some new experiences and as educational opportunities for the girls. So Stonehenge, as an example, is something that we've driven by before, but there's so much rich history in the UK. So yeah, so I guess that brief could be, my husband is from Wales. We're flying into London. We drive to South Wales. We want to see some new things along the way. So our two daughters, who are 7 and 8, can learn along the way. We'd like to stop in 1 or 2 towns. What do you recommend?
Okay, you're fast. Let me tell you what I've got. I'm planning a trip to the UK this summer. My husband is from Wales. We will fly into London and then drive to South Wales. We want to have some new experiences along the way, including educational experiences for 7 to 8 years old daughters. We'd love to stop in 2 towns along the way. What's the final task? We should say, give us some suggestions or give us a plan, or how do you want to close it
Give
out?
us a travel plan for a 3-day trip.
Say travel plan for a 3-day trip. All right. Let's see what we got. Okay, I've entered the prompt. I'm using ChatGPT 4.0, the latest base model. You could do
Mhm.
this with the free model or the paid version. And ChatGPT, okay, here's what we've got in store for your summer, Leslie. This sounds
Okay.
like a magical trip. Here's a 3-day travel plan from London to South Wales with 2 enriching stops that blend fun, history, and interactive learning for your daughters. So, day one, it's recommending London to Oxford, where you can check into a family friendly hotel and it gives some recommendations and then suggests Oxford University Museum of Natural History or the Story Museum, and then a couple of suggestions for dinner and an evening stroll. Then day two, Oxford to Bath. And so, an explanation of why Bath, that it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So drive to Bath and hit up the Roman baths and let the girls throw a coin into the sacred spring. That sounds so sweet. That's some afternoon activities, restaurants, recommendations for the evening, and then hotel recommendations in Bath. And then day three, drive to South Wales, stopping at a castle along the way. Okay, how did it do? What do you think of that suggestion?
I have not been to Oxford yet, so that'll be one to do. We love Bath. Bath is amazing.
Yeah. So if you got that back, you're like, I've already been to Bath, but I've never been to Oxford. What would you do? Would you provide feedback and continue the chat, or just think this is enough for me to start with and I'll finish it off myself?
I would keep going. I would say, I've never been to Oxford. Can you tell me a little bit more about Oxford? Here are some of the things that we like, and some things I'd like to focus on, maybe. So, one of the things that we love to do when we're in the UK is go to gardens because who doesn't love an English garden or a Welsh garden in this case. But yeah, really beautiful garden. So, it might recommend something else if you say, love Oxford, haven't been there yet. Can you give me more recommendations on Oxford? And can you include a garden?
Yes, well, a little bit more encouragement there, a little bit more context to make it special and just what your family loves to do. I love that. One thing we haven't talked about is, before we started recording, before we hit record, we talked about the pronunciation of your last name, a Welsh name. Have you
Yeah,
experimented at all with translation in generative AI like ChatGPT? Can it pull anything into Welsh or take anything out of Welsh for
it
you?
can. Yes. And do you know what's really interesting about this, actually? So, my husband's accent is a Welsh accent, but when he speaks to it, sometimes, and I think this might be actually like a glitch, sometimes it'll respond back in Welsh. And he doesn't actually speak Welsh. He speaks some Welsh words, but he's not a fluent Welsh speaker. And so sometimes it recognizes his accent and then it starts to reply back in Welsh.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. That's not that I've had a similar experience where I'm not a coder, but I am working on a technical product. And sometimes if I'm asking a bunch of questions, like trying to problem solve something, then ChatGPT will switch over and give me the code as the response. And I'm like, no, no, not the code.
Right.
Please give me a
Isn't it?
text response.
It's really amazing.
So
Yeah.
fun, all the different languages and modes that you can go into. Well, let's switch gears
Yeah.
a little bit and go into what I am affectionately calling chatbot mode. I'll ask you some quick questions and you can just say whatever comes to mind. No, no pressure, just whatever pops into your mind. That's what I would love to know. Ready to
Okay.
roll?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite AI tool?
Yeah, it's definitely Chat GPT.
Biggest concern when it comes to moms and AI or parenting and AI?
I'm really just more around data privacy. I think that would be my biggest concern. And I don't know what the solution is yet, but hopefully that will unfold soon.
What about best life hack you've used this year? It doesn't have to be AI related, but we love a life hack at AI Empowered Mom. What's a life hack you can recommend to other moms?
The storytelling aspect of things for the girls, it has just been so much fun and such a cool discovery now that they can do it with their friends, they can do it with their grandparents. It can be something that we can do at the table to sort of stimulate conversation between us. Yeah, that would be the one.
What's the first thing you do when you're feeling stressed or feeling overwhelmed?
I get physical activity. I
Uh,
go and I walk around the block, or I try to take my gaze away from my screen.
what about as a busy mom and a marketer? I know you have some long days. What's your go-to sanity saver after a long day?
This is going to sound funny, maybe. I iron clothing.
No way. Do you
I
want them
usually,
over?
there's something because my job is not like at the end of the day, I can't typically do a nice big tick. Okay, I've accomplished the thing. They're like long-term projects. So I
Mm-hmm.
love having a task that I can just give a check mark and there's an immediate gratification. So if I'm holding up super wrinkled clothing and then I can iron it and now it looks really nice and crisp, there's something so super satisfying about that.
I love it. Yes, it's done. Not that I iron my clothes. A book or a podcast or just a resource that shaped your approach to parenting.
I I wouldn't say this is specific to parenting, but just through my journey from early adulthood to where I am today, I typically have a copy of The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama. I give it away so often that I'll typically buy two of them so that I always have one on the shelf to give away to someone else. And it's just a really great way for you to be able to pick up a book and read one small excerpt from it or one small chapter from it, and it just kind of immediately reframes how you think about things in a more positive way. And that's just the whole thing of it. And so I've found that really useful at different parts of my life. So sometimes I'll go for a year or two without picking it up at all, but I pretty much always have a copy of it.
I think I have that tucked on a shelf, but I should put it within arm's reach. That's such a great suggestion to just open it up when you need a little inspiration. Was there a runner-up, a second book or podcast that you would love to mention, that you to share with others about that shaped your approach to parenting?
Do you know, there is one actually, and it sort of dovetails from the same type of philosophy as the Dalai Lama book, which is called The Daily Dad, and it's by Ryan Holiday, who's one of my favorite authors. He's written a lot of things that have been really useful for me and my husband. But my husband bought this book, and it is one of those ones that you can just keep on the shelf and take it out every now and then. But it says 366 meditations on parenting, love and raising great kids. And it really is. It's like one page of just a beautiful insight or something that is like spiritually sound as a parent. Because every once in a while you need to just, okay, how am I going to deal with this moment? And it gives you lots of little insights that are super useful. So I definitely recommend that book.
Ah, thank you so much for these beautiful and grounding recommendations. If folks want to stay in touch with you or want to explore more, I know they can find you on LinkedIn as Leslie Llewellyn, and that you have a website for your integrated marketing services. That's cellostudios.com. It's just such a pleasure always to spend time with you, but especially today, I feel inspired to think of more creative ways to use creative briefs in my prompting style and bring a little bit more creativity into my life with my family. And I'm sure others feel the same way. I want to thank everybody for listening to AI Empowered Mom. You can follow us as AI Empowered Mom on Instagram and find me on LinkedIn as Sarah Dooley. And I hope today's conversation made others feel a little bit lighter and maybe even give me a little bit of empowerment to try something new with AI this week. Thank you again so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Tara.